I moved to Fenwick last month. I was 32, a freelance writer looking for inspiration. The village was quiet, with weathered stone houses and cobbled paths. I rented a small cottage that was charming but falling apart. I heard whispers about the Fenwick family and their mysterious disappearance decades ago. It never left my mind after I moved in. On my second night, I sat at the old wooden table, staring at a blank page. The cottage was silent, or so I thought. Suddenly, I heard a child's laughter from the woods behind my home. I froze. I thought maybe it was in my head. Then I saw shadows moving between the trees. My heart raced. I didn't know what to think. The next morning, I brushed it off. Maybe I was just tired. I tried to write again, but my mind felt heavy. I walked outside. The air was crisp. The garden around the cottage was overgrown. I leaned against the railing, squinting into the trees. Nothing moved. As the days passed, I noticed strange things. One morning, I found a small, worn teddy bear on my desk. I couldn't remember bringing it there. That night, I heard the laughter again. It felt closer. My hands shook. I couldn't sleep. I decided to talk to my neighbor, hoping for some clarity. He was an older man with a cautious demeanor. He shared stories about the Fenwick family. They had 2 young children, twins, who vanished without a trace. He said some believed the children were still in the woods, trapped between worlds. My stomach twisted as he spoke. That night, the laughter echoed again, ringing through the trees. It felt like it was calling to me. I fought the urge to go outside. I sat on my bed, heart pounding. I didn't know if I was hearing real sounds or if it was just in my head. Days turned into nights filled with odd happenings. I found a dusty book in the corner of the cottage. It contained old family records about the Fenwicks. Reading it felt strange. It was like something was pulling me in, like the children's spirits wanted to tell me something. One evening, I heard a soft tap on my window. My breath caught in my throat. I turned slowly to look. There was a shadow in the garden. I couldn't see any details. The laughter suddenly stopped. I felt cold fear grip me. I couldn't take it anymore. I had to know what was happening. I opened the door and stepped outside. It was dark, and the air felt thick. I walked toward the edge of the woods. The silence was unnerving. My heart raced with each step. Then, I saw her. A small girl stood among the trees, her hair wild and tangled. She looked just like the pictures of the twins. I wanted to scream, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, she smiled and waved, her eyes filled with an unsettling brightness. Before I could think, I stepped closer. Suddenly, she pointed behind me. I turned, and in the dim light, I saw another shadow, a boy. I stumbled back. As the shadows drew nearer, my head swirled. The laughter returned, louder and echoing. I heard the words, "Come play with us." I felt a pull, like I was being invited into the woods. My mind raced with questions. Who were they? What did they want? I trembled, caught between fear and an odd sense of belonging. Then everything went black. I woke up with a jolt, gasping for air. The darkness around me felt suffocating. I was lying on the ground, the damp earth cold beneath my skin. Confusion washed over me. What happened? I sat up and rubbed my eyes, but the night still cloaked everything in shadow. The woods loomed around me, twisting in strange shapes. I could hear whispers, faint echoes that danced through the trees. I strained to identify the source, but it was just beyond my grasp. My heart thudded in my chest. Had I been dreaming? Or had I really seen the children? I stood, brushing dirt off my clothes, and looked for a way back to my cottage. As I turned to retrace my steps, a glimmer caught my eye. Lying on the ground was an old silver locket, gleaming in the faint light. I picked it up and opened it. Inside were 2 tiny portraits of the twins Freya and Oliver Fenwick. They looked happy, frozen in time. A chill raced down my spine. Was this a sign? Was I meant to find this? The name twisted in my mind, and suddenly it felt familiar, stirring memories from the book I had read. The twins had disappeared under mysterious circumstances. Everyone in the village had always believed they were gone forever. I could almost hear their laughter again, teasing me from the shadows that I shook my head, trying to dispel my mounting fears. I needed to head back home, to think. But as I turned, I realized the path I had taken was gone. It was replaced by a thicket of trees, the branches reaching out like arms trying to block my way. Panic gripped me. I stumbled back and tried to regain my bearings. Just then, I heard the unmistakable sound of laughter, now haunting and echoing through the woods. It felt closer, circling around me, as if the very trees were alive with it. I felt their presence lurking, a strange combination of innocence and a menacing undertone. "Come play with us," I heard again, clearer this time. My instincts screamed at me to run, but my feet felt heavy, as if the earth had a grip on me. I took a deep breath, ready to shout for help, but no words came out. Instead, a sense of overwhelming curiosity washed over me. Just ahead, between the trees, I spotted the light of a glowing orb, pulsating softly. Against my better judgment, I moved toward it, drawn by a force I couldn't explain. The laughter became melodic, enticing. I gripped the locket tightly, hoping it would guide me back if things went wrong. When I reached the light, I gasped. The figure of Freya stood there, smiling. "Come play," she urged, her eyes glinting in the dark. We've waited so long for someone to join us. My heart raced as I took a step back. The woods had come alive with voices, shadows flitting around me. The air thickened with unease. The innocent facade was wearing thin. That's when I saw another shape forming behind Freya, one that made my blood run cold. It was darker, more menacing. My sense of dread spiked. I turned to run, but the path had vanished again, leaving me trapped in a nightmare of laughter and shadow. I turned, desperate to escape, but the weight of something unseen held me still. Freya's luring smile suddenly skewed into a wide grin that stretched unnaturally across her face. Behind her, the figure loomed larger, a silhouette that absorbed the light around it, leaving a void. I could hardly breathe. "Don't be afraid," she said, but her voice was warped, echoing with something sinister. The laughter grew sharper, transforming into a chorus of jeers. I could feel the trees closing in, their branches reaching out as if to ensnare me. I fought against the urge to scream, my thoughts racing that I needed to think. I frantically surveyed my surroundings. The trees continued to shift and sway, blocking any avenue of escape. The glowing orb diminished, pulling Freya's form into shadow. The darker figure moved closer to her, its intent curling like smoke in the air, threatening and relentless. "Play with us," it rasped, a voice deep and twisted that sent shivers skittering along my spine. Panicking, I forced myself to run, making my way deeper into the thicket of trees. I could hear Freya's laugh behind me, mingling with whispers that sent panic through my veins. But my feet stumbled over roots and mud, and the darkness clung to my skin, heavy and unyielding. I could feel eyes watching me from the gloom. Were they the spirit of the missing twins, or something much darker that had taken their place? "Wait!" Freya called, her tone no longer sweet but urgent, as if something had changed. "You must stay." I kept moving, frantically searching for a way out. Just as I thought I caught a glimpse of the way home, I stumbled into a small clearing. My breath caught in my throat. There, in the center, stood an enormous tree, its gnarled roots twisting like angry snakes. At its base lay a small, wooden box half buried in the soil. I hesitated. Should I open it? The weight of the locket in my pocket felt heavier. Perhaps this was the key to understanding what had happened to Freya and Oliver. But the laughter behind me grew louder, more frantic, and I realized the figure must have followed me. I knelt, heart racing, and dug my fingers into the earth around the box. Mud caked under my nails as I pulled it free. The moment I did, darkness surged around me. I couldn't tell if it was the shadows or the figure approaching, but I could feel its presence enveloping me like a shroud. That I flipped the box open, and inside was a small silver key, glinting in the dim light. Just then, the laughter crescendoed into a shrill cry that echoed through the woods, shaking branches overhead. I gripped the key tightly, prepared to face whatever horrors awaited me. Then everything went dark. I gasped as I woke up, the cold earth pressing against my back. My hands instinctively reached for the key, still clutched tightly in my palm. A wave of panic washed over me. Had I escaped? Where was the figure? I sat up slowly, eyes adjusting to the dim light filtering through the trees. The forest felt strange and quiet, unnaturally still. The laughter that had chased me faded into the background, replaced by an uneasy silence that made my skin crawl. I quickly looked around, but there was no sign of Freya or the shadowy figure. Just the towering trees standing watch over the clearing, their trunks gnarled and twisted. That I stood up, brushing mud from my clothes, relieved to find the key hadn't slipped from my grip. Its smooth surface felt reassuring, oddly comforting amidst the chaos. What was it meant to unlock? Maybe it could help me unravel the mystery of the twins. The thought propelled me to my feet, and I took a deep breath. I needed to find a way out of the forest, but the path I had hoped to follow had vanished. Instead, I was surrounded by a tangle of roots and branches. Everything felt different, as if the woods had shifted while I was unconscious. Then I heard it. A faint rustle from behind me. My heart raced as I turned cautiously. The sound seemed innocent enough, but the paranoia gnawed at my insides. Something wasn't right here. I took a step back, my eyes scanning the bushes and shadows. What if whatever followed me was still lurking close? Just as I mustered the courage to start walking, I caught sight of something glinting in the underbrush nearby. I crouched down, curiosity edging out my fear. It was a small mirror, circular and cracked. As I picked it up, a feeling of déjà vu rushed over me. I had seen this mirror before. It belonged to the twins. I remembered the stories of how they had loved looking into its depths, searching for visions and secrets. Suddenly a memory wrapped around me, the laughter once again echoing in my thoughts. I shook my head to clear it. Get a grip, I whispered to myself. The mirror felt cold in my hand, and I had to fight the urge to look into it. Maybe it would show me something, but what if it was simply a trap? I stood up, holding the mirror at arm's length. My instincts kicked in. This was not good. I tucked the mirror into my pocket along with the key. As I stepped back toward the clearing, I heard a whisper in the air, soft yet sharp, twisting through the trunks of the trees. I see you, it said. I froze. The voice echoed off the bark, sending chills racing down my spine. Then, I noticed something in the distance, an outline against the fading light, a figure slipping through the shadows. Was it Freya? I squinted, but the figure melted away, leaving only the rustling leaves behind. My heart dropped as realization settled in. I was not alone. I took a shaky breath, trying to calm my racing heart. The whisper lingered in my ears, mocking my fear. I could feel my pulse thumping in my temples as I scanned the shadows once more. Should I run? Should I hide? A crack not far from where I stood made me jump, the sound like a branch snapping underfoot. I crouched low, trying to keep my breathing steady. This wasn't just a forest anymore. It felt alive, alert to my presence. The weight of the key and mirror in my pocket suddenly seemed heavier. Then, I spotted a flash of movement to my left. A small animal, perhaps. Gingerly, I took a step toward the source of the noise, compelled by a strange mixture of fear and curiosity. As I moved, it became clear that whatever had caught my eye was bigger than a squirrel. Freya. I called out softly, my voice barely a whisper against the enveloping silence. No response came. The woods swallowed my words whole. As I took another cautious step forward, I noticed how the air grew colder. It was as if a shadow had descended, wrapping around me like a cloak. My instincts screamed to flee, but my feet refused to move. Something was drawing me deeper into the forest, when I saw it a faint glow ahead, shimmering like a will-o'-the-wisp. Hesitation settled in my chest. Had it always been there? It felt wrong, alluring yet dangerous. Against my better judgment, I followed it, unable to resist the pull. The glow led me to a small clearing. The trees opened up to reveal a ring of stones, meticulously arranged, as if guarding whatever sat in the center. My heart raced. In the middle lay a wooden box adorned with carvings so intricate they seemed to dance in the dim light. What was it doing here? The box looked ancient, the kind of thing that told stories of old. I approached slowly, cautious of the eerie silence that surrounded me. My fingers tingled as I reached out, hovering over the carvings. The moment I touched the cold wood, an electric jolt shot through me. Images flashed in my mind, fragments of memories or visions. Freya, and a boy. The twins laughing, running through the woods, but their faces twisted into expressions of fear. I gasped, pulling my hand back. The whispers returned, urgent now, echoing in my mind. Find us. Was this their box? What did they want from me? I felt an insatiable urge to open it, to uncover the meaning behind the whispers. My heart fluttered wildly at the thought of what could be inside. But danger gnawed at my mind. Just as I summoned the courage to lift the lid, a loud crash shattered the stillness behind me. I turned sharply, adrenaline surging as the trees seemed to close in around me. The figure was back, looming just at the edge of the clearing, watching with hollow eyes. Get away from there! It shouted, and I stumbled back, my pulse racing. There was no way out now. I froze, heart pounding in my chest. The figure stood like a statue, framed by the waning light of the forest. There was something familiar about him, a glimmer of recognition that twisted my gut. But there was no time to think. I needed to move. Who are you? I demanded, trying to sound braver than I felt. Leave it. He shouted again, his voice sharper this time, a command that urged me to obey. Just then, the wind picked up, rustling the leaves and sending a chill down my spine. Instead of retreating, an impulsive surge of defiance rushed through me. Why? What's in there? I gestured back to the box. The glow shimmered, almost pleading. Things you shouldn't tamper with. He cried back, stepping closer, finally breaking through the barrier of shadows. My breath hitched as the dim light revealed his features. He couldn't have been much older than me, but his eyes held more weariness than I understood. Why shouldn't I? My anger swelled, mixed with the fear that gripped me. Is it yours? No. It doesn't belong to anyone. His voice was frantic, as if he was pleading with me to see the danger. It needs to stay shut. You don't know what it can do. I was caught between wanting to believe him and the urge to shake him off and open the box right then. What do you know? I shot back, desperate for answers. He hesitated, glancing over his shoulder as if expecting something to emerge from the shadows. I know what happened here. His voice dropped to a low whisper. It took my sister. A pang of empathy struck me, but I couldn't let it distract me from my goal. Your sister. He nodded. His expression twisted with a mixture of pain and fear. And every child that has come near this place. You have to leave now. Before it's too late. I swallowed hard, trying to push past my fear. I'm not leaving without knowing the truth. The whispers in my mind grew louder, urging me on as the mystery surrounded me. The moment hung heavy between us, the air charged with an unspeakable tension. Just when I thought he might relent, a low growl echoed from the trees, deep and menacing. We both turned, the sound slicing through the silence with a threat. My heart dropped. Stay back. The stranger shouted, panic rising in his voice. I didn't need to see what lurked in the shadows, but instinct took over. I dashed toward the box. With one swift motion, I grasped the lid, ready to uncover the secrets hidden within. Don't! He yelled, but I was already lifting it. The air thickened, a whirlwind of energy swirling around us. Just as the lid cracked open, the ground trembled beneath my feet. A blinding light shot out from the box, consuming the clearing. I stumbled back, barely able to comprehend what was happening. "Run!" he screamed, but I couldn't move. I was locked in place, staring at the radiance pouring from the box, my mind racing with questions. What had I unleashed? Then everything went dark. I gasped as consciousness returned, the darkness slowly receding like a shroud. I blinked, trying to make sense of the unfamiliar surroundings. I was lying on a cold stone floor, dampness seeping into my clothes. My heart raced. This wasn't the forest anymore, panic surged. I pushed myself up, looking around. The room was small, dimly lit by flickering torches on the stone walls. The air felt thick, almost oppressive, making my breath shallow. I scrambled to my feet, feeling disoriented. "Hello?" I called out, my voice echoing. No answer. Just silence, heavy and suffocating that I turned in a circle, trying to find a door or a window. The only thing that met my gaze was a large wooden chest in the far corner. It looked ancient, the wood weathered and dark. My pulse quickened. Was this another box? The stranger's face flashed through my mind, the urgency in his eyes, his plea for me to stay away from it. I couldn't fathom what I'd released from the other box, but something urged me to open the chest. I wanted answers. What had happened to me? Cautiously, I approached the chest. My hands shook as I reached for the lid. Just as I brushed my fingers against it, a creaking sound grew louder, reverberating off the walls. I froze mid-motion, heart racing. Then, without warning, the lid flung open on its own. I staggered back, hands up defensively. Inside the chest lay scrolls and old, yellowed pages, stories just waiting to be told. Closer inspection revealed strange symbols, writings I couldn't decipher. But one image stood out, a drawing of a child, eerily similar to the girl in my dreams. A wave of nausea washed over me. What did this mean? Suddenly, a soft whisper drifted through the air, chilling my spine. "Help us." My breath hitched. I wasn't alone. The voices of children echoed around me, circling like a haunting melody, drifting from the walls. I turned, trying to locate the source. Shadows danced just beyond the torch's light, twisting, shape-shifting that I stumbled backward, my heart thundering as a figure emerged from the shadows, the stranger, his face pale and eyes wide. "You shouldn't be here," he yelled, his urgency cutting through my fear. "Where are we?" I shouted, panic rising. "What is happening?" He took a step toward me, but the shadows seemed to wrap around him, pulling him back. "You need to leave. It's not safe." "Leave? I can't," I cried. "Look at what's in the chest. We have to understand this." Before he could respond, the walls shuddered, the whispers growing louder, more frantic. "Help us, help us." Something in the air shifted, dark and oppressive, and I knew I had to make a choice. I glanced back at the chest, its eerie glow beckoning. I have to know what this is. A flicker of desperation crossed the stranger's face. "No. Don't open it." His warning sliced through the chaos, igniting a fire in my chest. I was on the brink of discovery, and I couldn't turn back now. Then I noticed a flicker of movement inside the chest. Something was trying to escape. That's when I saw it. A small, shadowy figure, indistinguishable in the dim light, emerging from the scrolls. As it took shape, my heart sank. I had awakened something far worse than I ever imagined. The shadow wriggled out, twisting and coiling like smoke in the air. My heart dropped as it began to form a clearer shape, a small figure, barely taller than my waist. It looked like a child, with hollow eyes that seemed to gulp in every bit of light. I stepped back, the world narrowing down to that moment. "What are you?" I whispered, my voice trembling. Help us, it echoed, the same haunting phrase, yet twisted with desperation. I blinked, trying to convince myself I was imagining things. This couldn't be real, the stranger struggled against the shadows gripping him. You mustn't engage with it. Get away. But I was rooted to the spot. The childlike figure reached out a hand, its tiny fingers curled as if grasping for mine. I could see the sorrow in its eyes, the glimmer of a memory, pulling at my heart. It felt familiar, that pleading gaze. I glanced back at the stranger. What do you mean, engage? There's no saving them. He cried, his voice strained. Not until you release them. Release them? What does that even mean? The whispers intensified, circling around like a storm. I felt pressure building in my chest, choking me. I jerked my head back toward the figure, my heart racing. How do I help you? Find the light, it said, the words breaking, and then it collapsed into shadows, swirling back toward the chest. Fear surged through me. What light? Wait! I screamed, lunging toward the chest. I had to know what was happening. I had to understand. The essence of that child trapped in darkness urged me forward. Then the system broke. The dim light flickering from the torches sputtered out one by one, plunging the room into darkness. My breath caught in my throat, and I felt as if the shadows themselves were reaching for me. The walls creaked and groaned as though the very stones were alive. It's coming! The stranger yelled, voice laced with panic. Who? What's coming? Before I could grasp what he meant, the ground beneath me shuddered violently. I stumbled, affected by a force beyond comprehension. The shadows lashed out, surrounding us like an angry tide. I could barely make out the stranger's frantic face. You must find the altar. It's the only way to break the curse. The room began to dissolve around me, the walls fading into inky blackness. I felt myself being pulled away from both the stranger and the chest. My arms flailed as I reached for something solid, desperate to keep my balance. Then everything went dark, as if I had been engulfed by a suffocating void. When I awoke again, I was lying on the cold, damp ground again, but this time, I was not in the small room. Reality twisted around me, and the unmistakable scent of earth and wildflowers wafted in the air. The forest. I was back in the forest, but something felt wrong. Strangely, it was quieter, too quiet. No birds or rustling leaves. I felt a presence watching me. I turned slowly, my heart hammering in my chest. And there was the figure once more, the child standing just beyond the tree line, pointing deeper into the woods with a look of both fear and urgency. Instinct kicked in. I had to follow. This was unfinished, and if I was ever to escape this nightmare, I had to find the altar. As I stepped deeper into the forest, the trees loomed like ancient sentinels, their gnarled branches casting eerie shadows all around me. Every sound felt magnified, my hurried breaths, the crunch of twigs underfoot. I could still see the childlike figure ahead, a silhouette against the fading daylight. Please, it urged again, its voice soft but filled with urgency. I hesitated but pushed on, driven by a mix of fear and a strange compulsion to help. A part of me yelled to turn back, but I couldn't look away from those hollow eyes that seemed to be begging for rescue. As I went deeper, the air grew colder, and an unsettling chill wrapped around me. Once vibrant colors faded into dull shades of gray, as though the world had turned monochrome. Just then, I stumbled upon a clearing, illuminated by a sliver of moonlight peeking through the trees. In the center stood remnants of stone and altar, jagged and covered in creeping vines, looking as if it hadn't been disturbed in ages. This must be it, I mumbled, a flicker of hope igniting in my chest. But suddenly, the ground beneath me shuddered again, almost as if warning me to retreat. I steadied myself, trying to shake away the feeling of dread creeping in. The child figure urged me forward, and I moved closer to the altar. It seemed to pulse with an energy, a forgotten power lurking just beneath the surface. What are you looking for? I whispered, more to myself than to the shadow. Light, it replied, the whisper barely audible, lost in the rustle of leaves. Need the light. I scanned the clearing, desperate for any sign of a light source. My mind raced through the last events, trying to remember what the stranger had said. It felt like a riddle with missing pieces. Just then, I noticed a glimmer at the base of the altar, something shiny half buried in the earth. I knelt, digging my fingers into the dirt, pulling out a small, ornate lantern. Its brass surface shimmered faintly. A lantern? I shook it gently. It felt strangely warm. Turn it on. The figure urged, its voice growing more frantic. I fumbled with the latch, heart pounding as I opened the lantern. Inside was a small flame, flickering but alive. I held it up, feeling the warmth wash over me, and glanced back at the figure. But it was gone. The shadows twisted around the clearing, growing thick and suffocating. I felt the air grow heavy, and panic bubbled up inside me. No, no, don't leave. Then I heard it again, a low rumble echoing through the trees. I turned to see dark tendrils emerging from the shadows, creeping toward the altar, toward me. What is happening? I realized I had to act fast. Gripping the lantern tighter, I desperately shouted, "Show me what to do." Suddenly, images flooded my mind, a tapestry of memories unraveling before me. I could see flickers of light bursting forth, illuminating the night. But then came the shadows, engulfing all. The child. I had to bring the light to the dark places. With a surge of determination, I aimed the lantern toward the encroaching shadows. Just as I did, a piercing cry echoed, shaking the very trees. I took a step back, heart racing. I had disturbed something ancient, and whatever was coming next was unknown. But as the shadows recoiled, I knew this fight was just beginning. I recoiled as the shadows writhed before me, their presence almost alive, thick and choking. The lantern flickered, desperately holding on to its flame, radiating warmth as if it sensed my fear. I gripped it tighter, feeling a flicker of hope amidst the encroaching darkness. "Show me," I whispered to myself, forcing the words out despite the shrill echoes in my mind. Then I aimed the lantern towards the altar, urging the warmth to penetrate the gloom. Instantly, the shadows recoiled, hissing softly as they met the light. With each step, I could feel the power coursing through me, memories swirling in the depths of my mind. Freya and Oliver. Their laughter mingled with the whispers as I fought to piece together their tales. They needed to be freed from their bindings, the very shadows that sought to capture them still. Light. The cry echoed back, a child's voice carried by the wind. I hesitated, glancing around for any sign of them, but the shadows deepened, swirling as if daring me to yield. Ignoring the weight in my chest, I took a deep breath and pushed forward, directing the lantern toward the heart of the darkness. With every flicker of light, I could visualize the children struggling against their chains, their laughter quelling into pleas. "Help us," echoed clearer now, a chorus of voices rising above the shadows. I needed to act. "Please, I'm here to help," I shouted, the words ripping from my throat. I could hear the shadows whispering furiously, angry and threatening, wrapping tighter around my thoughts, trying to pull me down with them. But I steadied my breath, focusing on the lantern as it glowed brighter, illuminating the altar, reclaiming the space. "Come out." My voice rang out, determination igniting my spirit. The shadows hesitated, vibrating with energy, as though deciding what to do next. I hurled the light into their depths, and just like that, they began to recede, unable to withstand its glow. Then from the folds of darkness, a silhouette formed, drifting into the sphere of light, realizing it had no choice. A child emerged, ethereal and radiant, dressed in a faded dress. Freya. Her eyes sparkled, filled with longing, but beneath the glimmer, a glint of fear flickered. "Help us!" she echoed once more, her voice mingling with the wind. Without a moment to lose, I rushed to the altar, extending the lantern toward her and the portal stretching behind her. "What do I do?" The whispers intensified, a cacophony urging me to act. I understood I had to show them the light, let it recognize them. The lantern pulsed as I held it higher, not just as a means of protection but as an offering. In a desperate push, I focused all my energy on Freya and Oliver, willing the lantern's flame to grow, to reach them. All at once, the light burst forth like a shooting star, enveloping both the children and the shadows that wriggled in protest. Their silhouettes danced in the luminescence, the grips of darkness unraveling one by one. "Join us," the softest, most imploring whisper called out to me, wrapping around my heart. And I took that final plunge, triumph blooming within me, surged in the fight against lingering dread, but then the light began to tremble, wavering as the shadows lunged. I felt the pull of the darkness, the very fabric of its existence threatening to tear everything apart, including me. "No!" I yelled, unwilling to let this victory slip away. I would not allow them to falter. "Fight!" I screamed, my voice straining against the tempest. The light surged once more in response, and in that heartbeat, I felt them break free. Freya and Oliver rushed toward me, the shadows retreating. Yet, as they collided into the space of light, I was flung backward, a rush of force spiraling around me, pulling me down into the abyss. I lost grip on the lantern, its glow fading into darkness. The children's laughter rang out as they vanished from view, but their essence echoed within me, a bittersweet reverberation I could not shake. That I awakened again, gasping on the ground where it all began, the forest's edge. The chill lingered, but the whispers were gone. I blinked, my heart pounding in my chest as I rose to my feet. The lantern lay still, resting nearby, its flame now a smoldering ember. It felt like the forest was breathing a cauldron of untold stories and lingering questions. Had I truly freed them? Would their laughter ever haunt me? As I walked away from the clearing, the woods whispered softly behind. I could still feel the weight of their presence, a lingering reminder of what transpired. I might not fully understand if I had experienced the supernatural or merely a concoction of my mind, but a piece of me would forever remain in Fenwick, entwined with a mystery that would never truly leave me. That I settled back into my cottage, thoughts buzzing like the evening's chill. I wasn't sure I would ever return to that clearing, to face whatever lingered there. But a question remained, one that whispered in the shadows of my mind: what had really happened to the children? The darkness hadn't completely vanished but had woven itself into the very fabric of the forest, waiting for the next curious heart to wander too close. I moved to a different city the next month. I haven't been back. Sometimes, I still wonder about the children, if they're playing in the woods, or if something far darker lingers in Fenwick. But mostly, I try not to think about it.